Hey guys, welcome back to an episode of Bike Talk with BikeLane. This is Bike Checks with Ed. I'm Ed, and this is the all-new Giant Trans X 29er. There are a couple of models of the Trans. This is the X with a 29-inch wheel. So this bike is a trail bike, kind of an enduro bike. It's not listed as enduro, but with 150 mil of travel up front, this bike can handle some really rough terrain. So if you want to take this bike trail riding or you want to take it to the local mountain, this bike can take it depending on what you're going to be doing with it. But overall, the bike's just made to be strong, but yet nimble and light. So starting with the frame, this is a full Alex aluminum SL grade frame. So frame and rear triangle full aluminum. The geometry of the bike overall is just meant to be a little tighter, a little more nimble. With the Maestro rear suspension, the rear end is really short as well. Everybody loves short rear ends. And this bike is just overall just made to handle very quick. The head tube angle is 65.5 on the low or 66.2 on the high. So meaning it's not super steep, but it's steep enough where if you're going down some really low, really big hills, really big downgrades, this bike is going to be able to take it. So starting up front here, we have the Giant Contact Handlebar, which is 31 inches wide, 35.0 clamp size with a 35.0 stem. So it's a lighter handlebar, less material, but wider, so it gives you a more rigid ride. A wider handlebar also gives you more control over your bike, where you ideally want your handlebar to be shoulder width distance apart, which is going to give you the most comfortable feel so you don't feel like you're stretching. I always suggest riding the bike as is when you first get a bike or a handlebar in general, and just seeing how you feel, and then you can trim down from there. You can never add on. So it's a 40 mil reach stem. A shorter stem also going to give you a lot more control over the bike. A shorter stem makes your bike feel a lot more agile. You have Giant generic grips, which are definitely worth an upgrade. Do not lock on, your just traditional rubber grips. Up top, we also have the Shimano MT401 dual piston brakes. It's also a 2-finger brake lever. So a 2-finger lever is a really long lever. I always suggest giving you the pro grip, just moving everything over a little bit so you have more room on the grip, and you can use your pointer and middle finger to use your brake. So in order to use your brake, you want to use it on the farthest end of the lever itself. With the longer lever, I always suggest just moving it over. We have the Sram Sx 12-speed shifter, which we will get to, and we have a cable actuated dropper post. We have the dropper post lever up top, which is a pretty decent lever. We'll get to the post in a minute. So up front here, we have the Rockshox 35 Gold fork. This is a full air fork with 150 mil of travel, 15 by 10 boost spacing up front. So with 150 mil of travel, as I mentioned before, this bike can handle it. So it's a really tough built bike, but yet lightweight. We have on the fork the Giant AM rim, which is a 30 mil wide rim, and on the fork we have plenty of spacing if you want to run a fatter tire on here. So if you want to run a fatter tire, this is the 29 2.50. This is the Maxxis Minion DHF, which is a 50 psi tire. It's a really nice tire, really big knobs on it, but if you want to get something a little wider, you can. We have the Giant Tracker hub up front, which is a sealed bearing, again with boost spacing, with a through axle, which makes the bike really rigid, really strong. Whew. Trying to go fast. Keep up with me, guys. So to stop this bike, up front we have a 203 mil rotor, and on the back we have an 180 mil rotor. Even more stopping power in the front, which is always suggested. We have a dual piston brake, as I mentioned before, which is a hydraulic disc brake, which is going to give you the maximum stopping power. On the back, we do have the same rim, which is the Giant AM rim with the Tracker hub. In the back, though, we do have a different tire. This is the Maxxis Sector tire, which is a 2.40 now with a 50 psi. Usually you're running 30 to 40 psi depending on what you're running, but you can run this up to 50. This tire now has smaller treads in the middle, so it's meant to be a faster, less rolling resistance tire, but still gives you plenty of traction on the sides for cornering. Or on the front, they're much bigger knobs just for more traction. Your drivetrain now is the Sram Sx Drivetrain, as I mentioned before. Up front, you have dub spacing. In the back, we still have boost, so it's still wider spacing. Everything is just meant to be wider and gives you more control. We have a 170 mil aluminum crank. It's a 2-piece crank with a 30 tooth sprocket, which is a steel one. So steel gives you a just a little stronger than aluminum and a little less wear on there. It is a little heavier. But your bottom bracket height, as you can see in the video, is really high. You got plenty of space to go over obstacles on here, and with a shorter crank arm, it also stays out of the way, but still gives you the right reach. In the back, we have 12-speed drivetrain, which is 1150. 11 is your smallest cog, 50 is your biggest one. So if you want to climb, if you want to take your sweet time, you can climb with that 50 and with the 30, and you can make it. In the bottom here, the 11 and the 30 is going to give you plenty of room. You're probably never going to max this bike out unless you're really getting crazy going downhill. Crazy meaning hardcore. Good for you guys. And then you have the Sram Sx rear derailleur with a lockout as well. Also all cable actuated. The shock is the Fox Float DPS. It is specifically tuned for the Maestro suspension. So when you get your dual suspension bike, this is one of the main features. So I would suggest, if you don't know how to properly set up your rear suspension, or if you feel anything funny, definitely head over to your local shop and have them tune your rear suspension and your fork as well. You have your lockout lever, which is super simple, but you also have your rebend on here, and air pressure is very important. So when riding your dual suspension bike, that is one of the most important features to remember, that it needs to be at proper air pressure. We have the giant Romero Saddle, which is 170 millimeters long, 270 millimeters long, and 140 millimeters wide. The Romero Saddle is actually a pretty decent saddle. Has some nice padding to it. It's not too long, not too wide. Still has a little cut up. So I haven't personally ridden it myself, but it seems pretty comfy. You have a 30.9 cable actuated dropper seat post. This is a giant branded seat post. It's nothing special, but it's nothing too bad either. Dropper seat posts are pretty simple for what they are. So this guy is a pretty nice seat post. So thank you, Giant, for giving us a decent seat post. And overall, the bike is just meant to be tough, fast, lightweight. If you guys want to check it out, you can always stop by the store or head over to your local bike shop and see if they have them in stock. You can always check them out on Giant's website. You can see if a dealer has a bike in stock. So it's an easy way for you guys to keep track of what's going on, so you don't have to do a lot of driving, a lot of phone calls. And a quick update, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the bike shortages happening in the bike industry. A lot of components and bicycles are sold out due to most manufacturing happening in Asia and some in the Middle East. But they're still dealing with COVID, so there's a lot of shutdowns happening. So for 2022, bikes are going to be in very high demand, and there isn't going to be a lot to go around. So if you guys are thinking about getting a bike, you should get one sooner than later. If you guys want to stay up to date, you can always comment, like, and subscribe, and we will make sure to keep you guys updated with the latest information on what's going on in the bike industry and the newest coolest bikes.